Well, a car like this should be driven in somewhere like California or somewhere, certainly on the west coast of America. And we're driving it in Salford, near Manchester. But nonetheless, it's the only car to be in. I mean, it is very refined. We're in the sporty version, which has still got the wooden leather, but less traditional, as its name suggests, more funky, more upbeat, more modern. So if you're the 35-year-old businessman who's made 50, 60 grand, this is the car for you. And I've got to say, it drives as good as it looks. I mean, you'd expect that anyway, with all the work that's gone into it, but it really does handle. I've driven this car in the south of France, and now I'm driving it in sunny Salford. And it's got to be one of the best cars in its class. Jaguar say that it's up to Mercedes standard. It's the same as Porsche standard. I don't know about that. I mean, time will tell. The way I look at it is a car like this might be fine from day one when it comes off the production line, just being prepared by the dealer. Don't forget, you get a nice 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty in this car. But in 10, 20 years time, are we going to be seeing this car standing up to the rigours of daily life, as well as something like a Porsche 911, as well as a Mercedes, for example? Who knows? But meanwhile, sounds corny, but it's British, it's brash, it's back, and it's great. Nick Schele, this is the car we've all been waiting for, possibly the British car of the year. Tell us a little bit about it, the Jaguar XK8.
Well, I think it just is a new breed of Jaguar that's come into the market. It's a car that I think most people who've driven it say it gives them just total satisfaction. They never want to get out of the car, and that's of course why we wanted to do the car so badly.
It's a British car, but it's an American-owned company. Ford these days own Jaguar. How British is it? How much have you had to rely on Ford for input with this vehicle?
Well, the input has all come from our engineers at Whitley. They've designed this car from the ground up. Now, obviously, what Ford gave us was frankly the money, and that's what we needed. It's a very British car.
Before anybody worries about the Ford connection, it's fair to say probably this car wouldn't have happened were it not for Ford stepping in and taking over Jaguar.
There's absolutely no question. Had Ford not done that, Jaguar would have been dead now.
It's a British car, it's a driver's car. It is effectively the replacement for the E-Type, isn't it? Why not call it the F-Type?
Well, we thought about the F-Type, and then unfortunately another company down the road from us in Birmingham came up with an MGF, so we decided that wasn't a good idea.
Simon, your job as sales manager is to convince people to go for this car as opposed to the deluge of other cars there are on the market. Why would anybody choose an XK8 in 1996?
The beauty of this car is it's the first new Jaguar sports car for 21 years. It's got the classic looks of the car like the E-Type, but with modern design and technology, it brings back tradition, but in a modern day sports car.
Has it really got the looks? I mean, I know it looks great and I'd love to own one, and it's out of my price bracket, so I'm not criticising it. But when we see it along the old E-Type, and as I said earlier, this is really the successor to the E-Type. This is sort of the F-Type, although it's not called the F-Type, it's called the XK8. You know, I can't help thinking that it's not as sporty as perhaps it might be. It's a bit saloon car-ish.
It's not a sports car in the sense that it's a small open-top kit car derived car. It's a Jaguar. It's a quality British-made car built on tradition, so it has the chunky looks of a big car. Jaguars have always made big cars, so traditionally it's a new modern-day looking car.
And your reaction from customers so far? It's early days yet, but what has been the initial reaction from regular Jaguar customers?
Regular Jaguar customers ordered their cars between 12 to 18 months ago before they even saw the car. Being traditionalists and always being Jaguar owners, they basically just put their order in then, and it's just created more and more desirability after the launch still, because people who want to order now will be looking to next year. You don't sell the XK8, you take the orders.
Now, forget about what the salesmen say. Michael Sutcliffe, you're a proud Jaguar XK8 owner, and you've been a Jaguar owner for the last 30 years or so. How does this car stack up with what you've had in the past?
I would say this is probably the best Jag that's ever been produced, both from the point of view of performance and style.
What have you owned before this one?
My first one was an E-Type, a coupe. I thought that was the end of the world. Of course, I was 30 years younger then. But by comparison, that was a real bone shaker. Fine on a straight line, but the braking in it was a little bit hairy. The braking in this is unbelievably positive. You feel secure. You feel you can do the speed, and you know you're going to stop.
Now, with due respect, you're enjoying the best years of your life, but imagine that you were back in your 20s or 30s. Would this really satisfy your sporting cravings? Does it really look the part?
Yes. Oh, yes. This would, in fact, if I could go back to have fun, this is the kind of car that would help me to get the fun.
And we must stress that that last speaker wasn't an employee of Jaguar, a genuine Jaguar customer, just happened to bring his car in, and I can't help thinking that he'll be back soon to order another one. A wonderful car, but I think they've got the styling ever so slightly wrong. The whole point of Jaguars is that they look like cats, like Jaguars. You can almost see them prowling along the road. The problem with this is it looks to me like I don't know, just an ordinary saloon that's with a sporty touch. All right, that's a bit of an understatement, but you know what I mean. What I'd like to see is this car with a much, much lower stance on the road, much, much smaller wheels. This looks far, far too large to me, this wheel. And I think what we also need to see is the thing sitting much lower on the road. It almost needs a boot full of bricks or ballast or sand or something to lower the car down on the ground. Only then, I think, will it be the true sports car. Meanwhile, I think it's a very nice car, but for somebody in their 40s and 50s rather than somebody in their 20s or 30s. Well, so much for the XK8. Of course, the predecessor to the XK8 was the E-Type. John Wood, you're an owner of this beautiful 30-year-old car. How do you think the two compare, the E-Type versus the XK8?
Well, I like the E-Type originally because it was the sports car that really became the classic car that everybody considers is the proper English classic sports car. Whether the XK8 will eventually do the same, only time will tell. I suppose the difference from the E-Type's point of view is that when it came out, it was actually in what is now called the supercar class. So it was so much better and faster than anything else that was current at the time, which is probably the difficulty that the XK8's got, that it's really in a different market to the supercar.
Do you think in 30 years' time people will honestly be standing there looking at the Jaguar XK8 of 1996 saying, what a wonderful beast this is, what a timeless classic? I mean, people are doing this with E-Types as we speak all over the world, particularly in America. Do you think the new car has got the same qualities?
I think it definitely it's got back to what looks like a Jaguar, and it's got the curvy lines of the original Jaguar heritage, the D-types and the E-types, and really that's probably going to hold us in good stead, I suppose, in the future, that it looks a Jaguar sports car.
All things considered, money no object, what would you prefer? An E-Type from 1967 or an XK8 from 1996, I should say?
I think I'll have the E-Type and keep the change.